What's happening, good people? Welcome back to another edition of Kingly Conversations, man, where we just get mad provocative with our conversations and have and try to bring something to you that maybe you haven't thought about before, maybe you have thought about before. The problem is we got a lot of time to come up with topics and think just because of life and what happens. So a lot of the topics that you see and hear is thoughts that we had, and it's just like, put that down. Just put that down. Matter of fact, we were in a text chain the other day with another gentleman who, unfortunately for him, is going to have to be back on the show, where he was like, he asked a question, and I'm like, okay, put that on the board. We're going to talk about that. Then we got another couple folks that are longtime listeners. They're going to be bringing some provocative conversation to the podcast, and so we're going to make it happen. We're going to get into it. We are available anywhere and everywhere that you listen to podcasts, man. Yeah. And don't forget to check out the YouTube page, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can know every time we upload a new video, because we got plenty of them coming.
Why is he the hype man?
I don't know.
Hey, y'all want to be crazy offline? I'm going to be crazy online.
Hey, man, whatever you say, man. So, know, as always.
You know what time it is?
I'm Alan.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Twine, a.k.a. Twine.
In the house.
Ask me about my podcast. I'm
messing up your
up
own
right
stuff,
now because I'm so hyped right now. I can't wait. I'm excited,
stuff,
y'all.
Man.
Come on, let's do this. Wake up. Wake your up.
Messing up his own stuff, man. I can't mess up
What's
mine.
What's up, Mr. Designer Shirt? What's going on? Who are you over there? Looking fly over there, eh?
Go ahead, man.
Color coordinated.
Your friend, your mentor, Calvin D. Hill.
Bye, 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 bye.
So
I need to get my own sound effect. Y'all got the bye, 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 bye.
I don't have that. I don't have a sound effect. My sound effect is absolutely nothing. My intro has been the same since day one.
And mine hasn't. Mine has been very inconsistent. Let's be real.
Inconsistently consistent.
Refuse. Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Or consistently inconsistent.
I like it.
That's funny.
I mean, hey, man, it's what it is. It's like I keep telling people, nobody will have more fun listening to the show than we have making the show. That's just what it's going to be.
All right, before we get started, gentlemen, make sure all your devices are silented, if that's a word. Also, hey, shout out to the listeners, man. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to y'all. Let's take time to appreciate the listeners. Thank you for being a part of this journey, man. For all those listeners that have topics and they want to come, hey, man, bring the topics, man. You can come talk about it, man. Let's do this, man. You know what it is. All right, what's the topic for today, gentlemen?
Just make sure when you bring your topic, you also bring some conversation with the topic. Don't be out here like a church mouse on your own topic.
We got crickets?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to do. Oh, I replaced it with the bump.
That's fine. I got you.
I
I don't have I can't do that one. Okay. I don't see nothing wrong with it.
Of course.
I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem.
All right. So we're gonna be talking today. Since it's my topic, I got a host.
Yeah, let's do this.
We're essentially talking about what if everything you knew was incorrect. And by everything, I mean like some of the major tenets that you hold to be true. Like what if those things were incorrect? Would it change? And clearly for most people it won't really, but would it change what you thought, what you believed, how you moved in the world if some of the things that you thought were true?
I think it would.
I think most people, even if they found out that it wasn't true, would just double down because they lived their entire life believing a thing.
But like you said, if it wasn't true,
yeah.
If it was not true, I think people would change.
I don't think so.
You want to know why?
You want to know why?
All right, let's
ask a female Trump supporter if they got told something
directly.
And see if they agree or disagree with you, and that's not even a dig. I just have a conversation.
The mental gymnastics that people will go through to continue to believe what it is they want to believe. So
fake news.
It started off because I asked myself a question, like how many people really go back and evaluate what they think they know? Mm-hmm. Because obviously everything that you are going to study, read, most of the things that you're going to study or read are probably not going to be objective, right? So they're going to have some level of bias, or they were written after the event happened. And so now you're getting a person's take on an event, right? Where and there could be more than one take on the very same event. We have the benefit today that people didn't have 200 or 300 years ago of having the additional knowledge. Because what the other thing that made me think about it was I was watching this a video that was just off, facts that'll mess with your perception of time, and they were talking about how George Washington, who was the first president of the United States, died before dinosaurs were ever discovered. So dinosaurs had not even been discovered by the time he died, meaning that what he knew about the world completely changed the day dinosaurs were discovered. And would he, not he himself, but people of that time period, been willing to then go back and reevaluate what they thought they knew for what is now true? Because one thing that's undeniable is they pulling bones out the ground.
Okay.
You can't deny that part of it. You can deny whatever else you want after that. But unless you're going to sit here and say, oh, they put the bones in the ground just so they could dig them back up. When, bruh?
How, Sway?
How? You ain't got the answer, Sway. Like, when would they have put these bones in the ground to then say, we're going to wait till everybody dies so we can come back and dig them back up? Stop the nonsense. Get out of here, bruh. Because otherwise you would see that the ground was disturbed already.
Right. But I think it depends on what truth makes it. I think it really depends on what you finding out is not true.
So how do you evaluate that? What do you like? How do you evaluate what you know?
Well, like you said, going to do research and we have more information now available to us, and going and finding and seeking answers. So if you wanted, if that's what you want to go do,
first of all,
then, like you said though, if you find out something is not what you believed it was, then would it change your behavior or what you do? I think it would. It depends on what it is. It just depends on what you base your life on. If it's that important, there you go. Okay, fine. Like you said, the dinosaur.
Thank you for saying if it's important, because you have to have
you got to have value in it.
Right. You have to have some kind of energy, or I can't find the word I want to say, but you have to have a desire to do so. If not, then you're going to wallow in the same stuff that you've been
If you told me dinosaurs existed maybe a few years earlier than what I knew, I don't think that would change what I do.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It's just new information.
Yeah. At the time, for them, they would have said, okay, well, the Earth is this old, but then you find these fossils that are now changing that narrative. And most of that narrative is because people are uneducated and can't read. Not in a negative way, but it's like they don't understand metaphor and simile. They're reading something as a fact, not a metaphor or a simile, right? And so they're putting a concrete thing on an abstract piece of text, because when somebody says is as or is like, that's just trying to put some concreteness to an abstract concept, because humans created the concept of time. Like, time didn't exist before we decided this is what time is. Time, and she goes, on Mars, no, you can't have time if there is not a sentient being there to dictate the passage of time. Otherwise, what is time? Time doesn't really, time in the sense of what it is doesn't exist until somebody is there to quantify and codify it. Then time exists. So we say, 16 million years ago or 2,000 years ago, but that only exists because we're here to put that stamp on it. Lions have no idea of the passage of time in terms of this is a day, this is a year, this is a month, this is a decade. They have no idea about that.
See what you're doing.
None whatsoever. And if you're a housefly, you really don't, because you live like 42 days. Yes, I read. I be on the animal channels and stuff too. So, so if you don't, so to a fly, every hour could be a year to them. We have put this stamp on here. So I'm just saying, like, time has no meaning. Well, one of my mentors said it this way: nothing has meaning except for the meaning we give it. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Because if we weren't here to give it meaning, then you're right. It does. If a person was not there, if a sentient being wasn't there to give it meaning.
If you don't give it value, it really doesn't mean anything. New information. Same thing like you said. Well, I don't think we're going on that time train. But
no, we weren't. It just happened to come up because of the dinosaurs. So that's the only reason why it happened to come up. So I just find that, generally speaking, most people are either don't have the ability to, maybe because of their socioeconomic situation, or don't have the desire to reevaluate the things that they thought they knew.
So in your opinion, do you think it would change what you do? Knowing okay, time. Because I like this. I like that whole thing of time. I love it. So if you didn't measure time, or you felt like time was measured differently, would you change what you do?
Because of the society that we are in, I probably wouldn't. Although there are other societies to this day that still see time differently. There are still countries that use a different calendar. They have to know the standard calendar, but inside of their own country, they use a different calendar than the Gregorian calendar that the Catholic Church instituted.
Right. So again, okay, like today, if we use the Hebrew calendar, it's not 2000
at all.
22. Way off.
Way off.
But, but would it change how we operate?
It wouldn't change how we operate.
How
it might change how you operated if you lived in a country that used the Hebrew calendar.
Yeah, like for us, I mean, for me personally, I would see that as not being a determining factor of me changing anything, because first of all, going by that calendar is not. What is it doing for me? What change would that make in my life if I was going?
It changes your seasons. It changes when you celebrate certain holidays.
I live in Virginia. Don't talk to me about seasons.
Where ain't nothing to do but cook,
bro. It rained. It was cold. It was rain. It rained and it was warm. Then the sun came out and it got cool and the rain went away. Don't talk about seasons, man. Get out of here. What you talking about, man?
But it would change what you.
It would change what? Practice?
It would change. It would. If you were a farmer, would it change what you do? To me, it depends on what you do.
As a farmer, you would have to figure out your own way in the times and the seasons to make sure that you reap the benefit of what you sowed.
You would, and you would also, because even now, farmers, especially in the West, are having to relearn what they thought they knew.
Exactly.
Because the water supply that they've depended on for 150 years is drying up.
Okay.
But I think if you're not put in those types of situations where you are forced to change, then I don't think most people are going to make any real changes, even when that new information is presented.
Check that off.
So with what you said, does it affect my daily life? No. That's what would make anybody change. Does it affect your daily life? No. All right, let's move on. They're not going to change. Of course, if they were to learn something new that was incorrect.
The Earth is flat.
I was going to say that next. Ooh, you beat me to it. I was going to ask it.
Is it going to change what you do tomorrow?
No, and I would and I've said this before, not on the podcast, but for the vast majority of people, it ain't gonna matter if the Earth is flat anyway, because the only place you're gonna see it is from the ground. You only gonna see it from the ground. So unless you're an architect or something like that, it ain't gonna, like, if you build bridges, it matters.
It might matter.
It might matter. Even if you fly airplanes, it don't matter.
It might matter.
But if you build bridges, like long bridges, then it matters. Because if the Earth was flat, you wouldn't have to correct for anything. But if the Earth is curved, you got to correct your design for that curve of the Earth.
What about the geographical ups and downs, the elevation, the up and down?
The elevation is a bit.
So that would be a form of correction.
But it wouldn't be. But it wouldn't be because of the of any curve.
Let me do a sound check because
I
I'm
backed
good.
up.
No, you good because I feel like I'm giving y'all that quiet storm. I got to get a little louder so y'all can hear me.
Lord.
Don't turn up your speakers no more. We here. Let's go. I'm sorry.
We got suppression anyway, so
All right. Sorry for the technical difficulty.
But so I mean, you would have already done that, but you don't have to. But you'd have to correct for elevation,
Not curvature.
and curvature if you were building something long enough to matter.
Okay.
Because I mean, again, if the Earth is curved, but if your feet are always on the ground, guess what? May as well be flat.
It don't matter.
Don't matter for you.
So how
Don't matter one way or the other.
So how do you go about evaluating what you know?
I mean,
Go to space.
No, because it has to be a generalized principle that you can apply to every situation. You gotta have a certain. Okay, give me an example or steps or some kind of idea how to go about evaluating what I know. That way, I can take it and use it on different areas.
so for me, I generally do what I learned. I took a photo reading course years ago, decades ago at this point. And one of the things they taught in the course was something called syntopic reading, which was you read multiple books on the same topic, and then you synthesize the points where they overlap. Because the points where they overlap are the most true points, the least debatable points. Because if you read 4 or 5 or 6 books, let's say you read books on nutrition, for an example, and they were by, somebody who, by 5 different authors who weren't like didn't run in the same circles type of thing, right? And all of them said, this is important, and this is important. But then this book, the third book might have said, I like this and this. The second book might have said, I like this and this. And then the other book, I like this and this. But they all agreed on these certain sets. Then you can take that as a good measure that, okay, this is probably the most true information. I don't think that anything should be, because of course we learn new information all the time. So the question then becomes, is anything that man has written, is it infallible? That becomes the question that you have to, and the problem with science is science is always changing as new information is presented. But people don't want to change with it.
Infallible. Could you please explain to me personally and for the listeners what is infallible? What does that mean?
I mean, it depends on where you go ahead, Calvin.
No.
I'm
staying out of the book. I'm staying out of the book today.
Infallible. What is that?
I'm staying out of the book because he's jumping in the Bible. I'm staying out of there today.
Essentially correct and without error.
I was talking to Kenny and we all, see they sat there and
ain't nobody did nothing. I just used the word infallible because I know it's a word people would be familiar with.
Yeah, I always say it depends on what principles and what you believe, because some people don't believe that's the infallible word of God. So I leave them alone. I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm gonna leave y'all alone today. I'm gonna leave everybody alone today. Let's move on.
So that's infallible. So if you believe that your source is without error, and factual, then that's what I mean.
There's a note up here.
Absolutely trustworthy. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna just let that die silently. I was just joking. Hey, the next I see here a topic right here, or not a topic, but a subject or a bullet that says, "It isn't what you know; it's what you think you know that is not so."
So I can. This is a quote. It is a bar.
That's a bar.
It is a bar. The bar was said by Pastor Deborah Hill. Mm-hmm. And that was just one of the most profound things I had heard, that it isn't what you know, it's what you think you know that is not so. And I took that, I'm like, man, you could really apply that to anything, because so many people think they know a thing, but they never go back and continuously reconfirm what it is they thought they knew. And they do it, they do it with the things that are important, but with the information, well, some people do. But the information that they don't necessarily think is important, they don't go back and say, okay, well, is my belief on this thing that I could be shaping some of my opinions on, is this not actually true? Because especially in the world we live in, everything is passed off as truth. And so do we actually say, okay, this thing that I thought I knew, let me look that up again. Maybe some new information has come out. Maybe some more information has been published on the topic, and maybe I can get a better understanding of whatever that thing is. So that's where that came from, is that it's not what you know, it's what you think you know that is not so. So
Hey,
shout out to Pastor Deborah Hill.
Yeah, shout out to
Giving me those tidbits back in the day.
Pastor Deborah.
Hey, I tell people all the time, like,
if you're listening,
I will pull from anywhere. I
love ya.
I keep all of this stuff close to the vest, man.
How's she doing anyway?
She just celebrated 60.
Oh Lord, have mercy! Don't even know.
7 years. Her birthday.
Oh, 67?
Last month.
She born in 55.
That's what's up.
Same
Happy
year as my
belated
mama.
birthday. What you get her?
Nothing yet.
I got a thank you card for birthing me.
We going out.
I am the gift.
She took a month vacation and went traveling and did all this other
I did
stuff.
see she
She
was
just
traveling.
got back. So we're gonna go sit down and eat lunch or something one day.
Dope. Shout out to you. Love
All
you.
right.
Next.
So
What we got?
and I think sometimes. So here's why this came up. It's I think sometimes because we experience a thing.
That's what I was like.
Yeah.
Why did you come up with this?
Because a lot of the time people think that their experience can't be questioned, and it's like, yes, for you it can't be, but that doesn't mean that somebody else in that same situation or at that same event had the same view on it that you did or saw it the same way. So it's no different. So it's
We talking about perspective.
perspective.
Okay.
So it's like the there's this meme that's been going around for a while where it's like a person looking like they're stabbing a person, framed in the image, like a news clip or whatever. A person looks like
but
they're
it's a
stabbing.
person. If you
but it's
zoom out, it's
Yeah.
a person running away.
yeah, and so that's what made me think about
Yeah.
that. Is that
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah, I seen- you gotta see that
you have
one.
to see it. It's
I seen it.
so that's what made me
Whoa.
think about it. Was
I'm sorry. So is a video
It's
No. It's a
just
picture.
It's just a
a
picture.
picture? Oh, okay.
It's a picture.
It's a picture.
and it shows. So it's like one picture shows a silhouette, one scream. It looks like he's about to get stabbed by somebody else. But then they show the next picture, and it's a zoomed out view of the whole scene.
The situation.
Yeah, and it's
The
one
big
person
picture.
running away, and another guy.
Another. Since there's one person
Yeah.
running from somebody, the person that looked like they were getting stabbed in the zoomed in shot was actually chasing the other person.
Yeah.
I gotta see that.
Okay.
But it deals with it deals with perspective,
perspective and perception. Yeah,
perception, the way media forms an opinion.
they do. Media definitely.
I'm sorry to
forms
cut
an
you off,
opinion.
but that kind of
Yeah.
threw me for a loop.
And the reason I even thought about it is my thought process was: is it possible for two people to experience the same event
Okay.
and have completely different thoughts about the same event? And then if they do, are both of those thoughts true, even though they may conflict with one another? Because we always act as though, experience is the unquestionable truth, except for two people can experience the exact same event and have two different thoughts about that event because of their own internal biases or whatever. They can have two different ideas of that event.
Definitely, I agree with you because I feel like I think people's personality have a lot to do with it. I could experience being fired from a job and take it as, oh God, it's the worst thing in the world, while somebody else could take it as, oh no, that's great. It's a great opportunity.
And even with that, I mean, you can experience two people, both of them minorities or whatever, and then somebody who's in the majority in that particular country, and so one of them says, well, this so and so was racist towards me.
Oh Lord.
And the other person is like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I've seen a lot of situations where somebody took it the wrong way, but the person that they said did something, they didn't see anything wrong with it because for them it wasn't taken that way. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm following. I'm tracking.
That's good. That's good, man.
I'll tell you what thing. What can we talk about that's that people think they know about something that they don't?
And I think I know about the Willie Lynch letter until I found out some more, like you said, had to go find out some more information about it. And it was disturbing.
Well, talk about it. Because that's one of them that's on here.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, some of the tactics on the letter that was supposedly written in 1860, whatever, 1716, whatever.
It's supposed to be written long before slavery ended. Yes.
Yeah, and some of the tactics, I feel like it could be used on anybody. It doesn't have to be narrowed down to black people, even though we always associate slavery with black. But I don't feel like a lot of his tactics can be. It's only for blacks.
Well, we associate slavery with black because we're in the U.S.
Because I think a lot of it's human. It's just human condition. It's just
and chattel slavery was a new thing.
It's been going on long before.
Chattel slavery hadn't. Where chattel slavery, where you were a slave, so your kids are a slave, and their kids are a slave. That was new.
They did make that a thing.
Yeah, that was new. It wasn't like it used to be. If you could be a slave, but your children weren't born into slavery. And then chattel slavery, you a slave, so they a slave, so they a slave, so forever.
Your mama's mama.
That was new. That was new in the new world.
So what did you said?
Thanks, Dutch East India Company.
So what did you? I missed it because I zoned out slightly. What did you learn about the letter itself?
Okay, so it's like certain. I had to pull up the letter to actually pull up the different points or tactics that he used to manipulate the community or the slaves as a whole.
I got you.
It's graphic. I really didn't want to go into too many details, but to me, again, because I learned that information and I kind of read it and went through it, it made me. I can give you an example. It talks about how it teaches the young people not to listen to their
old people.
Yeah, older people.
Turns younger than so. Yep.
Yeah, and that was one of the tactics, and that actually made me stop not listening to older people. So I said, okay, let me listen to my elders and mother and father, and let me stop and say, hey, let me go back and listen to what they got to say now, because that was one of the tricks he used to break down the community,
and it was
one of the tricks. But
here's the thing.
It was.
I understand what you're saying, but
the letter was supposed to be created in 1712 by someone named Willie Lynch. It was a speech. The problem that they have found today is there is no record at all that this person ever existed. Which you would think if he was as wealthy of a slave owner as he was supposed to be, according to
you would have some kind of
there would be some kind of track record, some kind of record that the person lived at all.
Yeah.
And currently, now I will say that for what the document says, does seem to be it's almost as though somebody looked at the community and said, "This is why these things are happening," and wrote a letter instead of looking at it and saying somebody planned. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't. There was a lot of stuff. So, yes, all of those things were done.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there was a letter that was given to anybody that said, but
deliberately do these things.
They turned.
That's what it seemed. That's what it seemed like.
That's what it seems like to us.
Right.
But is that what it would have seemed like to your grandparents? Because the letter didn't start really popping up until the 70s, 1970s, not 1870s. And you would think that so that's why I say it, like, the problem is we can't really ask our grandparents or great grandparents. Had you heard of this Willie Lynch letter thing? Because if they were around then and it was something that was circulating around the community, they should also have been aware of it. Mm-hmm. I first heard of it from my father, who grew up through the 70s.
I didn't hear about it until I was a grown man.
Yeah, I had it on my mirror when I was a kid. I had the Willie Lynch letter on my mirror. It looked like somebody typed it with a typewriter, like one of those old ransom notes. But so that becomes the and I'm here's the thing. I'm not saying that this stuff wasn't done. We're just talking about, is the letter itself true? We know these things were done because there were house Negroes against the field Negroes. Mm-hmm. We know they were turned against each other because the house Negroes had better opportunities, more food, and they sometimes would hold that over the field. Also, the house Negro was typically also an overseer, meaning if there was some things going on in the field, they were the snitch. So yes, the house Negro would have been against the field Negro. The other thing is that, that's how you get light skin against dark skin, because the house Negro would have been inside most of the time and would not have been as dark as the people in the field.
But those were some of those tactics.
But those were tactics. So all the tactics themselves are true. Is the letter true? Is the question.
So
and it doesn't change. Now in that case, it's not going to change what you believe. Go ahead, sir.
And in relation or correlation to what you're talking about was, how did Abraham Lincoln free the slaves?
He did not.
Wait, what?
He did not.
Come on, man.
No, he didn't free the slaves.
Stop it.
Let me tell you. You want me to tell you what he did?
What did he do?
Calvin probably tell you what he did. What he did was he only freed the slaves in the rebellious states, and not even all of them. He didn't free any slaves north of the Mason. He definitely didn't free the slaves in Maryland, because D.C. was surrounded by Maryland. So he didn't want to free the slaves there and risk alienating them. So he only freed the slaves in the states where there was open rebellion, which was the Confederate States of America. He didn't free the slaves in the North at all. And he's on record as saying, that if he could save the Union without freeing anybody, he'd do that. And if he could save the Union by freeing people, he would do that. That his number one priority was to keep the states together. And he also is on record as saying that he does not view the African as on par with white people, and that really they should all be sent back home.
That was his initial.
That's what he said.
Yeah, those are his words.
Did it happen though? But
it happened for some. That's why Liberia was created.
not enough.
It happened for like 5,000, I think. 5,000. I had to look at the numbers, but it happened for a few thousand. And the government was paying for you to go there. But why are you going to a country that you don't know your ties to?
I've done some reading and I've got my knowledge up in some of the history, and so there's a lot of information out there, a lot of books. Some you might want to comb through, but there's other ones that are very informative.
Yeah.
I got a question for Calvin. What about you? What are your thoughts about the United States?
Boy, that's the one I was looking at. I just looked at it.
I know you was.
That is so not true.
As a Christian nation.
That ain't
is
true.
It a Christian nation?
No, you can't.
What you mean?
Because in the Bill of Rights, you can't. The nation, no laws will be built based on anybody's religion, creed, race, color, whatever else. So that automatically throws out the whole notion of Christianity, this country being built on Christian
So
values.
why do people think that it's a country built on Christian values?
Because they were told that.
Who told them that?
I don't know, but
Who's Sanaba?
You can't build. You're not allowed to have any laws. I need something.
Your mouth, you look
Based
a little
on
dry.
people's religion. So that's why we can have the change
Multiple.
that's why we had the changes of the laws and gay marriages and all these other things, because that's in the Christian religion not to, but we don't live in a Christian nation. America wasn't built on those values. So
I
that's
know
why
my
we
rights.
can change it. Right. So
I know my rights.
The other reason I think people think that it is, because
One
if you look
nation
at
under
the
God
well, they added the under God. That wasn't originally in the pledge.
Was that
but
true?
It was just one. It was just one nation, indivisible. They added the under God in the 50s.
But again, I say the same thing. Who's God?
Good
Who's
question.
God?
Well, at the,
What's your God?
you know which one it was.
No, I don't.
It was the one with the blonde hair
Oh, yeah, see, exactly. So
blue
and the
eyes?
blue eyes.
So exactly. So
Evil.
oh my God. Exactly. So that's why I always tell people all the time, I don't know your God. I don't know who God you.
I was actually, it's crazy that we were doing this one, because I was watching this this pastor talking about, it's weird that the nation that says it's a Christian nation would have simultaneously rejected the Jesus that they preach about because of, at the time, his skin tone. He was also Jewish. All of these things would have had him drinking at the same fountain as all the other minorities, having to sit at the back of the bus, not eating with anybody at the restaurant, because so it's just weird that the self-same, I like that word, but the self-same God that they purport to believe in is exactly the one that they would reject if they saw him today.
Where you going, Calvin?
Come going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere because I ain't getting started.
But no, listen. So
I ain't getting in this.
I mean, you may as well. But yeah.
Nah, man,
so
that's
I
What you here
don't.
for? Are you not entertained?
I want problems.
I don't want peace. I want problems always.
Look, I'm trying not to. I'm trying. To.
So no, but I've never thought that the United States was. Certainly not since I've been an adult. I've never thought that once I actually started reading and looking for stuff on my own. I never thought the U.S. was a Christian nation.
Look at where I ain't getting into it. I'm
But
like Calvin, man. Let me
but
just lean
the
back.
thing about it is that the only thing that bothers me about that is people. You're trying to force the United States to be a theocracy, but you won't allow other people to force the United States to be a theocracy. So it's okay for your religion. It's not okay for anyone else's.
Right.
Yep.
But then you talk about freedom and equality and democracy.
No. It's
as long
only
as
free
it's in the
for-
lines of what I want to do.
No, it's
on
and that's
how I wanna
always.
do
It's
it.
only free for the people that are in power.
Exactly.
Speaking of
Trash.
Speaking of power, let's talk about marriages. Huh? Let's talk about
Marriage is a tradition, and again, I say the same thing, man. It depends what culture, what.
No.
What?
Personalize it.
No, but
you.
for me, based on my culture and upbringing, it's a tradition
Got it.
because I have 3, 4, possibly 5 generations of marriages that went all the way through.
Yeah.
There was no splitting or nothing else. I have 4. I can count my mom, dad. My grandfather was shot on my dad's side. My mom's mom and dad were together, and what I believe, don't know, their parents were together. So, for me, marriage is tradition.
Till death do us part.
Till death do us part.
God.
When you go, I go. So I don't.
Awkward
So now everybody doesn't view that the same way, and some people don't even believe monogamy is a natural thing. It should be.
Some people believe.
Some
that
believe you should. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like
That's how they did it back in the day.
right. So it depends on what your culture.
How is yours different from? How is yours better than mine?
It ain't.
Like,
It's
if
not
I-
a right or wrong, better or right, up or down. It's none of that. This is the way you decided to do. Oh, I always,
mean?
because some people want to live polygamy?
Yeah.
A polygamous life?
Yeah. Polyamory. or polygamous,
whatever that is. I mean, that's what they want to do. So you got 6, 7 different wives. Okay, cool. That works for you. Do you like your results?
Some of them do.
And right. So I can't be mad at you. Do your thing.
Okay.
That's because I don't have the same
But see,
traditions and values.
I'm about to say,
so
'cause
I'm not going to tell
that's
you
somebody
your
else's tradition.
Right, that's your culture. That's what you
Yeah.
come from. So I'm not
Right.
going to tell you wrong for that.
Right.
That's your business.
Mm-hmm.
Accept it and accept everything that comes with it because I got to deal with mine.
Right.
I'm worried about me. I'm worried about my stuff. I ain't worried
Semper
about
I.
yeah,
Together.
yeah, because
Me and my wife.
yeah,
Together.
yeah. I don't. I got off of this train of worrying about what everybody else is doing and start worrying about my own beams. I got my own stuff going on. So
Okay.
Beam.
Shout out to
man.
you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to bring that song back out. Dust off the vocal cords.
I mean, and like you said, going if we look at the American traditions and the way America's going in our society and everything else, it's going down fast. But who cares? So hey, leave people alone.
Got it. The recession is coming. Alan.
I mean, I've often said democracy doesn't survive itself. None have.
Democracy.
Globally, none have ever.
Okay, now get back on marriage.
So, I mean, marriage. So, I think marriage is, for a lot of people, marriage is a tradition.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but again, like Calvin, like
Culture.
I don't necessarily, unless you and the person that you are with have both agree on that, then it is certainly possible. Then there's nothing wrong with not being married, except for in the eyes of other people. That's really going to be it, because some people are going to say, well, how in the world could you be with somebody for 10 years and not marry him, or 20 years and not marry him? My only issue, especially for those that are in long-term relationships that are that way, is just according to the government, you're still not next of kin. And so if there are any decisions that need to be made, you will not have the legal right to make those
So
decisions.
it sounds like an economic decision more than anything.
In some respects, now that doesn't mean that, and I got married because I wanted to. I mean, that's one of the things I always prayed for: a good life and a good wife. So I was one of those weird kids because I never didn't want to be married. I just had to find
The right one to be married.
who I wanted to be married to, where our personalities meshed, where we had, and in our case, because some people never had these conversations, they just like enjoying the ride, but you never have these deeper conversations on, well, what about this? What do you think about this? Well, what is your view on this? So that you can really see if your personalities gel.
I like the quote Dr. Miles Monroe. He says, "Where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable." Most people don't know what marriage is for, or don't even have a reason for marriage.
They don't, but like you said, it depends on your culture and what you've been taught coming up. Because if you're not in, because for most people, their view on marriage is going to come from a religious background of some kind, whether now rightly or wrongly. Because as a whole, for a long time, there were a whole lot of pastors that wasn't marrying people of different races. Forget different religious beliefs. They just if you was you this and you this, you indigenous and they white, nah, ain't doing it because God wouldn't like that. So that's where we come in. See, I keep saying this about everything. Like everything is perfect until you add people. You add people, it's just government perfect. Add people, messed up. Religious beliefs perfect. Add people, messed up.
Well,
the water table, perfect. Add people, messed
I
up.
wish we could do that picture and have the dude with the cup. All right.
So yeah, I wanted to be married, but that was, again, it wasn't because, for me, it wasn't because of tradition or something I was taught. I just wanted to experience this life with a person. I wanted to build a life with somebody else. And for me, I knew I didn't have the emotional stamina to build this life with multiple people. Like that wasn't going to be that. I wasn't going to have the emotional. The other thing about that polyamorous lifestyle that doesn't make any sense to me.
oh Lord, oh Lord,
is now when I say it doesn't make any sense to me is I often see it purported only by men. Now that doesn't mean there aren't any women that are doing it, but it's like man with multiple women, and not women with five husbands.
I've seen a female.
I've seen a few, but that's not the norm.
I want both of you. You can't have nobody else but me, but I want him too. So let's make this work. I've seen that as well.
I've seen it,
Okay,
but I don't see it nearly as often.
that is true.
It's not. It's almost more taboo. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. So I would never say 100% without a doubt. It's just most of the people I know that are involved that's what their belief is. It's always one man, multiple women.
Got it. Well, I will say about marriage quickly before we move on is that I've learned that everything I knew about marriage was not true, and I really had to unlearn my my perspective of seeing a marriage. And doing so, life is great.
Now, did you see marriage as a tradition?
Me, no. I've seen what a traditional marriage looks like, and for me, I saw all the flaws in it. So I took away pieces of it, but the whole idea and how it's constructed,
Now,
how it was constructed, I don't.
What were the flaws? Was it flaws because they weren't happy, or flaws because of?
Well, I will say, and traditionally, no matter what a man did, he was supposed to be forgiven for it. Like in that traditional marriage where the female had to deal with it and had to accept it and had no choice or no power in the outcome of what the other spouse did.
That generation did have that.
You know what I'm saying? Traditional, yeah. Like the man was out here in these streets, and the wife would be at home, and then the father would come home, and it'll be a repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
Exactly. So traditionally, for me, I saw marriage as that. I also saw a lot of abuse in traditional marriages, which were accepted.
Like physical,
all the above.
But I think again that might have something to do with generation. And I can't blame the marriage for that, but I think that generation.
Well,
had
but
a lot
if
of
that's
they
the
learned it from
marriage
somewhere,
you
though.
saw, or that's the
what-
marriages
so
you've seen,
They learned it from
then
somewhere.
that's all you know about marriage.
Yeah,
And
not,
that's
not to say I've taken it from
No,
multiple
I get it.
relationships that I've seen. I've seen men lose it all because they couldn't keep the pencil in the pocket. I've seen financial demise because one of the parties was not financially smart, but traditionally, you supposed to go through. You supposed to help that person because y'all together forever until y'all death do you part, and you just supposed to accept everything. So that's those are some of the things you asked me a question. So if y'all can relate, please follow.
yeah.
Who said that, Bo? Yeah. All right. So
Last one,
baby. Nobody lives today was a slave or owned slaves.
Nobody alive today, but yeah.
Alive? I said alive.
No, you said nobody lived today.
Oh, damn it.
Nobody alive today was. So this is something that I have just learned recently, really, that because that's always the argument that nobody alive today was a slave or owned slaves.
Who said that?
Is that a fact? What is this?
This is what people say. It is not a fact, but this is what people they're talking about. Usually, U.S. based slavery. That nobody alive in the U.S. today, because we live in the U.S., owned slaves or was a slave. They're not talking about human trafficking and all that. They're talking about specifically about chattel slavery with black people. That's what they're specifically talking about. And that is not actually true. It is not true. I see y'all looking it up. You want me to go ahead and start? What do you want me to do? I mean, because I can. Were you aware?
Well, a person entirely under the domination of some influence or person. I'm not saying that the military.
Oh, no.
But you.
I mean, you would be. That technically would be slavery. Yes. It's paid slavery. It is paid slavery. I'm not talking.
Under the second definition.
Labor,
Under the second definition.
Yeah.
Under the second.
But that could be indentured servitude because you do have a contract end date.
It's a contract.
It is a contract. It is a contract, so it could be just classified as indentured servitude. I'm talking about chattel slavery, my guy.
Check the video out, man. Just show the bop.
So here's why it came up, because evidently, there were towns all the way into the 1960s that did not know about the Emancipation Proclamation.
Very good.
So they were still being held captive as slaves. Now, obviously, these had to be in very rural areas, and so these people kept them as slaves, no different than they were in the 1860s, for generations, all the way into the 1960s. Now, obviously, because of our history, a lot of those were in the Deep South, but we're talking about like Louisiana, Mississippi. I don't know about Alabama, but I know Louisiana and Mississippi for sure, that there were people that were still slaves into the 1960s, which means into the time that your parents and grandparents were living, knew that they had the opportunity to be free. There were people that still did not know that they were actually free. And those people who kept them as slaves are also still living.
Very good.
Do y'all know forced and early marriage is a form of slavery?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm just reading.
Now, slavery itself has never not existed.
Okay.
But in this particular example, we're talking about, because people think that slavery ended in 1865 or whatever. It's like, no, it didn't. It was supposed to, but it didn't.
All right, in closing, actually, you know what? There's one more.
Why?
Look,
Go ahead.
there's one more note up here. It says, what are some things that people think they know that isn't actually true? And the note says, size doesn't matter. Somebody lied to you, baby.
Oh, my gosh.
Why?
Closing thoughts.
Just randomly adding a note at the end. Oh, my gosh.
Say why. That's funny.
This guy.
Okay, guys. Whoever put this down, I'm gonna check this one off, guys. We're good. All the topics have been talked about. I think we're good. Huh? We talked about slavery. We talked about the things that people think they know, they don't know, but they wish they did know, but they don't.
Hey, I'm just glad we got some good tips on.
Speaking of,
read 5 different books or find 5 different opinions to.
All right, I'm calm.
to evaluate
To
what
evaluate,
you know.
yeah.
To evaluate what you know. All right.
All right, guys. In closing, speaking of tips, I just like to say that I would like to thank all the listeners for listening, and we appreciate you. Hey, shout out to Alan, man, because he is very informative, man. Shout out to you. Hand clap for yourself, man, because you have a lot of knowledge up there, man. So shout out to you, man. I appreciate you. Yeah. You too, Calvin.
All right, so listen. Just
way to go, Calvin.
make sure that as the quote said, it isn't what you know; it's what you think you know that is not so. And so, and you don't have to do what I do. I'm just one of those people that I'm constantly reevaluating, constantly relearning, because I want to try to walk in whatever I believe is truth, and I'm constantly making sure that that truth is updated, so that I'm not living on old programming, right? I'm not still out here doing things that aren't even true today. I'm not living in a way that's not even true today. So that's all it is. That's really all it is, because I just think that if people did that, we'd be in a much better position. We would be much more informed than we currently are, and stop being easily manipulated by lies and untruths. That's really all it is. I don't like to be manipulated, and so I always want to know what is the root of this thing and how is this thing applied today. With that said, man, we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah. And another thing.
Oh my God.